Hello, hello, and welcome along for today's discussion on one of the hardest things about walking a conscious path. There are many things that are difficult in walking a conscious path. You know, after you've had a transformative experience, some kind of spiritual experience that has blown your mind or completely shifted who you are. Maybe it happened early in the journey where you had something and you've integrated after that, or maybe you're deep and far along on your journey and you've had more experiences that have shaken you even more into your core, that have been like the earthquake to shake the foundations on what you had built, and are challenging you to step even more powerfully into who you are. And so the challenges are manifold as we walk through our experiences, as we integrate our experiences, as we honor and own those experiences and step into what they are. So I'd love to hear what kind of challenges you have faced and what you think the greatest challenge could be, or at least what the greatest challenge for you has been. I will be sharing from my perspective in working with people who have had these transformative experiences and integrate them, what I have come to see through them the greatest challenge is. And so are you ready for it? It's not one of the biggies is, believing in ourselves, but that's not the biggest one that I come across. There are other biggies like integrating the changes that happen in our body, the changes that happen in our emotions, but not that's not the biggest that I come across, also, although these are all massive and part of the process. The biggest one, the very biggest one that I find that this is something that needs to be addressed along the road at some point, even if it comes up later in the piece, is all about our closest relationships. It's the people around us. It's the people that walk with us and journey with us. And I want to share a great example of this. So I was recently asked to write an endorsement. I was invited to write an endorsement for a very unusual and, it's quite an incredible book, really, called the Tiauba Prophecy. And I'd never heard of this book. I'd never even heard of the word Tiauba. And so I was intrigued with the invitation. And even more so when I started to read through the book and understand that this was an account of a man who had a non-ordinary transcendent experience. He had a powerful spiritual experience when one night he walked out of his house. He saw himself writing a note to his family, though he didn't know why he was writing it, that said, "I'll be back in 10 days." And he walked into his garden in midnight, and in his explanation of what happened, he was taken into an alien craft, and he then had an experience over 9 to 10 days. I think he came back on the 10th day. And it took him 3 years after that experience to write, to put into words what had happened. And he was given very specific instruction on what he was to share in that book. It is an incredibly detailed book. It chronicles his journey in a way that will take you on a story, and it's not necessarily about believing his story and what happened. This is his experience, right, and what happened to him, and he was tasked with bringing this back. And when I watched a video of this man later on, his name is Michel Desmarquet, a French man who was living in Australia, in Cairns, when it happened. He strikes me as incredibly authentic, and so this is perhaps part of why this journey happened to him and why he was given a mission to write this book. And so, aside from dealing with this incredible experience, like, hey, I was abducted by aliens, I disappeared for 10 days, my family didn't know where I was, and then when I came back, I wasn't quite myself, right? Aside from that, aside from having visited a place that was beyond his regular comprehension, that showed him things. And this comes up often with people who've had profound spiritual experiences, where you touch on places or realms that are beautiful, blissful, incredible, colors beyond colors on earth, sounds beyond sounds on earth, light and experiences and love, and things happen here, and you have a direct experience of things that you haven't yet had in your earthly life. And so aside from that happening, and then bringing that back to planet Earth, that knowing in his being that is possible, that exists, and then having to, have the hard landing that many of us do back on planet Earth, and integrating that. Not even that was the greater challenge, right? Or then finding the courage to write a book when he wasn't a writer at all, and communicating with some kind of a non-earthly being in order to write this book. I mean, all of these things happened to this man who, wasn't particularly walking any spiritual path or asking for this experience to happen at all. He was a very reluctant experiencer on the path, which is also what makes this story very interesting. But the greatest challenge, like this man's story shows, is he came back and he then had 2 broken marriages after that. Both of his marriages ended. It says here in his biography a little bit that both of his wife, after his return to Earth, 2 consecutive wives left him. And in the year 2000, Michel decided to completely abandon his mission with the book, go to Vietnam to marry for a 3rd time, and finally achieve peace of mind. But of course, as any of us know with these experiences, trying to leave them behind and ignore them for our own peace of mind doesn't work, because there's something about them that keeps nagging at us, particularly if, like in Michelle's case, you have also been tasked with something very specific to do, or you have a calling that is very strong within your being. The good end to the story is, of course, he found a little paradise where he was, and I believe, towards the end of his days, he passed away not that long ago, actually. And towards the end of his days, I think he really, enjoyed a level of peace and accomplishment. He did write the book. And even though after writing the book, there were numerous challenges in sharing that with the world, and again, you will probably relate as someone who's had something extraordinary happen to you, and then you feel to share something, and then you bump up against wall after wall after wall after wall. Am I nuts? No, I'm not nuts, but other people think I'm nuts. Now I'm ready to share my message because this is what I feel to do so strongly in my being. Maybe you write a book, maybe you put out a course, maybe you put out something to share a bit of your story, and then crickets, or people turn away, right? And so again, this comes up with the biggest problem. One of the hardest areas of walking a conscious path is when people that we love and care about and have taken time to form relationships with turn away, or don't understand, or don't want to understand, or want to cast us away to some faraway place because they're afraid to be with us, or they're ashamed to be with us, or in some way just stuff is brought up that we humans don't quite know how to deal with, maybe in ourselves, maybe in other people. Maybe we've become a very strong mirror for others, and that's very uncomfortable, right? Especially if you're then stepping into a place of doing your own soul work and your shadow work and all of these things. It can really, and all of this comes up as you walk your most authentic path. As you walk a conscious life, you will naturally encounter pieces of the shadow, etc., that will come up, our stuff that comes up for processing and healing. And so when we are around the people we love, and we're trying our best to walk our authentic path, and we are misunderstood, we are judged, we are labeled, we are criticized, all of those things are incredibly painful. They make an already difficult experience even more prickly. and painful. And so it's no wonder why many people continue to sit in the spiritual closet, have these profound, powerful experiences, but fear sharing them because we fear losing our connection and our relationship with those who know us, who love us, but who may no longer understand us. And so that journey of changing people in our life, we may lose valued relationships in our lives because we have become like two boats in the night. You know, there's a comfort in understanding and knowing one another up until that point. But if something major and transformative happens, it can come to a point where, you know, the communication, the bridge, the divide has become so far, so wide, and we are no longer on the same trajectory anymore. And so there is a split that comes. And hopefully we are able to do that as compassionately, as lovingly, as soundly as possible, as respectfully as possible of two human beings. But that might not always be the case, you know, and there are some people who will also very clearly cut others out of their life because they realize it is no longer helpful for anybody's growth and peace and calmness to walk together in that way. So it happens, these challenges in the relationship. And did you know, here's an interesting fact, that in the near-death experiencer community, there's been some research done on this, and I would dare kind of expand this out to those who have had these other profound spiritual experiences as well. There is actually a higher rate of divorce in that population. And as if the rates of divorce in the world were not high enough already, I think last I understood it was like 2/3 of marriages dissolve. Yeah. Now, if that's 2/3 of marriages, this is a union where you've committed to each other, you want to walk the path, you've been very intentional about wanting to go together. If 2/3 of those, given all of the other reasons, you know, dissolve, this population has this added element in it of the spiritual transformation and the catalyst of the spiritual transformation and all of the pieces that it then, like the domino effect, right, it has on all of the other layers of our being. It can change our values, it can change how we walk the world, it can change how we present ourselves, how we be in the world, how we speak, think, walk and act, right? All of these things, and how we want to move forward in service and be with other people. It can change all of these things. So you add that then onto the already massive numbers for divorce. It is no wonder why so many more relationships dissolve in the conscious community. The good news, there is a silver lining, of course, is that once that dissolution has happened of that which is no longer aligned with who we are and who we are becoming, a space is also opened up. A space is needed. A space is opened up for us to stand, to get to know, right? To reacquaint ourselves with ourselves, to be in our own frequency, to be in our own power, to be in our own vibration, understand what that is, enjoy what that is, right? Radiate you. That stuff takes time, yeah? Especially if there's been things about, you know, lack of self-love, lack of self-respect, all of these things. If we've been downtrodden in some way in the past, and we have a bit of healing work to do in terms of kind of reclaiming who we are, right? That space is needed. But the beauty is that when that space is reclaimed, when that vibration is strengthened and amplified, and we stand stronger in our power, we now become magnetic in a different way, because we know who we are, we know what we want, we know what we're doing. So there is clarity now in our presence, and that clarity is magnetic. That is like a moth to the flame. When you stand in your power, you know who you are, right? It is a beautiful thing. It will repel many, because that is also a challenging frequency to be around, because it is a powerfully reflective one. But it is an awesome one to be around when the frequencies match well, and there are others who are ready to meet you in that space. Now we are talking an incredibly powerful space where we can create family, tribe, authentic, real relationships, true, into me, see, intimacy, into me, see, you, me, see, right? Into me, see, true, right? Where you can be you, where you can have your big emotions, when you can, you know, walk your conscious path as openly as possible, as freely as possible, so that you can carry on exploring who you are, because you are continually evolving. You are continually evolving and stepping more and more into who you are, because you are an emergent being. As long as we are alive in this human form, we continue to be emergent, right, and evolving. And so that is dynamic. It's not this static thing that you then go sit on a mountaintop and meditate for the rest of your life and achieve perfection. That is not the goal here. You are you are incarnate in a human body on this very complex planet Earth, and you get to play the game. You get to play a role in it, right? And so stepping into that and playing the game of your own evolution, and then co-creating and being in relationship, right? This is all part of the fantastic evolutionary thing that we get to do, not just with intimate others, but tribe, with other people, where we co-create things together. Agent of awesome. That is all what agents of awesome are. That is what they are. That is who they are. That is how they walk the world. So let me know how this lands with you. It's been a bit of a long discussion today, but it's a biggie. It's a biggie. And so it requires the space and the deep dive. Let me know how it lands. Let me know if relationship has been one of the biggest, if not the biggest, challenge for you. And if so, what have you found helpful on the path? Where are some of the most stuck points that you find on the path? Are you in it right now? Are you challenged by it right now? And so what do you seek as you are walking through this stuckness? Have a beautiful day. Much love. Speak soon.